Welcome to the Dabs and Show, episode 3, Dabs and Dinosaurs. Today, we're going to be going in talking about 6 different dinosaurs, talking about a little bit of information, what they were like, real-world things that these dinosaurs actually compared to, and then we're going to see if maybe they would have liked the strain of concentrate that we're going to be dab bagging on today. Now, the first dinosaur is the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Terp CPA, please tell us about the Tyrannosaurus Rex while I get us a bag filled.
I'd be happy to. So our first dinosaur today, as Paul mentioned, is the species Tyrannosaurus Rex, aka the T-Rex as everyone knows it. The genus is going to be the Tyrannosaurid theropod. It lived in the Western North America about 66 to 83.6 million years ago. It was about 12 to 20 feet high. So what that would be in comparison to is your modern day giraffe, the tallest giraffe that you can see. That could be about the size of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And can you even imagine a 20-foot tall dinosaur like that walking around right now? I prefer not to, even the slightest.
For the record, the dinosaur Tyrannosaurus Rex that they had on Jurassic Park was way too big then.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and that's one thing I do want to mention also. In your idea of dinosaurs based on Jurassic Park is so warped and twisted and so far from, in my opinion, in a lot of ways from reality, because they scaled up a lot of dinosaurs. They made a lot of dinosaurs.
They're Hollywood dinosaurs. Let's call it how he sees it. They're Hollywood. They're Hollywoodosaurs.
Because I don't know if we didn't even talk about this, but there was one dinosaur when I was doing the research on this that they just recently within the last year found out what it actually looks like.
And it's nothing like what they thought it looked like in the movie.
And the movie is all just speculation, guesses, and everything else in between. And so it's nice to see them actually figure it out. So going back to the T-Rex weighed about 9,900 to 18,000 pounds. So that's about 9 tons at the highest weight. So that's 1 to 2 elephants. So imagine 1 to 2 elephants on top of each other. That's about the weight of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. So if you were driving down the street and that thing stepped on you, you would be flat, to say the least.
Flattened.
And the other thing that's, I was a little unsettled by this because I didn't realize they lived as long as they did. They lived for about 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so Tyrannosaurus Rex lives for about 30 years.
So that's, what's the average human age? Isn't it like in the 80s, 90s? So,
I want to say something like that.
So like Tyrannosaurus Rex years compared to, like there's dog years, so it's 3 to 1.
Oh yeah, so it's every 3 years, or every year for a Tyrannosaurus Rex would be about equivalent to 3 human years if we're looking at lifespan comparisons, which,
Imagine a 10-year-old Tyrannosaurus Rex in his 30s. I can see it now. But we were talking about this earlier, about the T-Rex specifically. We were talking about the Dabs and Dinosaurs episode, and I thought to myself, man, I wonder if he would be capable of lighting the bong to smoke weed out of, and short arm tongue. They would be perfectly set up for it. And then Tyler was like, no, they would be perfectly set up for dabbing. Heat it up, drop the dab rig.
Oh, for sure. They're set up for dabbing to an extent, but at the same time, part of me wonders, with how their arms and stuff is set up, if they would need help from all their friends. Basically, you got one T-Rex sitting at the back of the bong, the other one sitting at the front, because no one can light that shit by themselves, because you get your face out and you're like...
Help me, guys! Help me!
And then they get their hit, and they're beautiful in bliss. And that's the nice thing about it. The one thing I thought was interesting is, so in Jurassic Park, I don't know if they extrapolated or accentuated the speed of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but what I found is it can run about 17 miles an hour. So I don't know.
17 miles an hour.
So 17. So it's pretty quick still, to say the least. So I wonder, was what they were showing in Jurassic Park accurate or not with the speed? Because to me, 17 miles an hour isn't very fast.
They showed it chasing a car, a Jeep, the 4x4 Jeep.
Well, I was thinking
Remember
about like, the size of it, though.
Yeah.
Like, the steps it can take and the strides it can take. If it can run 17 miles an hour, but it takes the strides of, like, 4, like, Jeeps, like, each time, like, how fast
It could
is
have
in
more
comparison?
acceleration than the Jeep, definitely,
Well,
initially.
yeah. So, I'm like, that makes me wonder, like, so, yeah, 17 miles an hour doesn't sound very fast, but with the size of those things, like, I feel like it could definitely catch you still. I don't know. That's where my head went with it. And so Tyrannosaurus Rex was also a carnivore. So we're going to talk about several dinosaurs today. Some carnivores, some herbivores. I'll let Paul go into some of these once I go over what the diet of the Tyrannosaurus Rex was. So the Tyrannosaurus Rex ate Triceratops, who we are going to be talking about today a little bit. I want to bring that one up. The Edmontosaurus, which, oh my gosh. Okay, so if you remember Jurassic Park, these were one of the ones that were actually in Jurassic Park. They had like a crest on their head, like a small little crest, and they kind of almost had like a puckered lip kind of look to the face of the dinosaur. Those are the Edmontosaur. And then we have the Corythosaurus, which I'm not exactly sure what that one is. I didn't get the chance to look that one up. But the most fascinating thing to me, and I think this is a little bit of a topic of debate a little bit, was the Tyrannosaurus Rex a cannibal?
Definitely.
Did it eat itself, or was it just interspecies kind of like competition? But and the craziest thing to me is it's not the only one on the list that might have been known to eat its own kind.
Listen, think of us and how humans have expanded over time in a fight for resources and area.
Yeah.
In that particular time frame, they fought over the same resources and areas with other T-Rexes. And the winner of those fights got to eat the other guy.
Oh, yeah.
Great, you are now also my meal for the day. Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah. It's either they like take that area, like you're saying, with like the conquest kind of mentality of like, this is now my spot. And at the same time, I think part of it too was a lot of these dinosaurs, I mean, they may have had a small hand complex in itself, but I think a lot of it was competition for females. I think it was competition for the ability, or not the ability, but almost like the right to impregnate the females around them first.
Like, it's an availability thing. You know, what is alive will be able to impregnate me. That a topic for another episode, mating rituals of T-Rexes. Subscribe to watch in the future the episode we do, Dabs in T-Rex mating rituals. We'll definitely talk about that for sure.
Deliveries, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. Dabs and deliveries, you never know. Oh my gosh.
We can talk about packages of all kinds. We can talk about babies. We can talk about adults. You never know.
You never know. Something really, really amazing about the T-Rex I saw in your notes I wanted to mention.
Oh, yeah.
Had 60 saw-like teeth with powerful jaws 3 times stronger than a modern lion. And a modern lion can bite your arm off. Like that's. You ever seen a modern lion take down a water buffalo?
Now imagine the size of the freaking giraffe.
Yeah,
They can bite through.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine a lion-sized giraffe, okay, that runs 17 miles an hour, okay, one bites you with the short arms and everything, long snout.
And that crushing power is no joke. It can go. So what they found in fossil records was it was able to go through bone. So when they went through the intestines and like what was inside the stomach contents of these dinosaurs, they found bones in the Tyrannosaurus Rex stomach and stuff, which to me was just like, that is so badass that they would just eat everything, almost like an owl would.
Yeah.
Like, they just
literally, and their bodies can take it. That is really awesome. And thinking about the T-Rex, we're consuming the strain Chemdawg today in our cannabis concentrates. Chemdawg is a very, very calming, euphoric concentrate. Amazing notes of strawberry and a lot of your higher fruity notes. It's a very, to me, the notes I get, it's a very fruity extract. I'd say, Tyler, if you want to show the audience here real quick, I'm just going to come around and focus on.
Yes, we were gifted this beautiful concentrate by Volcano Concentrates. This is gorgeous Chemdawg
It is so beautiful when you get in there and smell it. It's just, it comes out, it's such a high note. And to me, like, I can't wait to get into it a little bit more and check out the earthiness as well. So part of it too, what we're curious to see is, will the flavor be an impact? And I think it will when it comes down to what dinosaurs will like what concentrate. And so that's
a big shout out to this episode's sponsors, Illuminar Lighting, Joint Accounting PLLC, Huron Botanicals LLC, and Volcano Concentrates.
One thing I love about Chemdawg is the overall flavor profile. The terpene flavonoid profile present is so fruity. Like, I always wonder, this is something me and Tyler always talk about all the time, Terp CPA my terps, okay? How do they get such amazing flavor profiles to present in these extracts? How do they get in the biomass product grown? How do they get such high notes of osamine, you know, one of the main terpenes that add to that strawberry flavor? How is that possible? And through genetics and time, anything's possible.
A lot of love and care. Like, these breeders that I've talked to that really care about the flower at the end of the day, you can tell. It comes out in their grow. It comes out in their strains that they're able to come out with.
And this Chemdawg is it. I mean, the osamine, strawberry, fruity high notes. And that leads us to to finish up on our first initial conversation of the T-Rex. Do we think the T-Rex would enjoy the Chemdawg concentrate? I personally, I don't think so, and this is just my personal opinion, and I say this because it is a carnivore, meat. I'm thinking gassy, breathy. I'm not thinking fruity. I'm thinking T-Rex would like a gassy or something like a breath or something even in that flavor category. I'm thinking because this is such an amazing fruity high note flavor that a T-Rex wouldn't like it. They might like it potentially for its pain and overall relaxing abilities, but they wouldn't like it for the flavor. Yeah. Therefore, they wouldn't dab it. What do you think, Tyler?
No, that flavor right there. I'm a fan of that flavor. You're a fan of that flavor. I do not think the Tyrannosaurus Rex would be a fan of that flavor. But one thing that we talked about that I think would should be brought up is the Tyrannosaurus Rex may not like it, may not be about it, but I think all of his friends, all the other dinosaurs, would definitely be happy that he smoked this, because Tyrannosaurus Rex had a lot of anger, had a lot of frustrations.
Short arms. We'll do that to you.
Exactly.
Short arms, long snout.
Your whole life like this. He had a lot of problems.
He couldn't itch his own nose, okay? That could probably get annoying after a while.
So the euphoria created by Chemdawg, I think, would really help out his mood. So I think other dinosaurs would really appreciate if the Tyrannosaurus Rex was to smoke some Chemdawg. He was one of the fiercest predators out there. They were not to be trifled with in any way, shape, or form. And it's one of those dinosaurs that I'm excited that we got to talk about, because
I would never want to meet it in the world. I love watching it on the Jurassic Park movies. Shout out to Jurassic Park. Next time you make a movie, make it realistic. There are gigantic dinosaurs that look cool on the TV. You just gotta find them and not remake them into something else. Be real. You can do it. We believe.
And you could have, because not that we're going to talk about this one today, but I want to talk about one dinosaur real quick, the Spinosaurus. That thing was gigantic. That thing was a beast. You should have went with that instead of the T-Rex. Just saying.
Just saying. Every kid in the world right now could be talking about the Spinosaurus, and that could have led to a crap load of chiropractors.
That's so true.
You missed your opportunity to give the world more chiropractors. Shame on you, Jurassic Park creators. Oh my God, hilarious. So, T-Rex could potentially be a fan for the effects of the Chemdawg, but not for its flavor.
So overall, 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
10 out of 10 would not recommend. Moving on to our second dinosaur, we have the Velociraptor. Now, the Velociraptor, I like from the movies. Again, they're a very vicious animal, but they're smart. They're very smart. In Jurassic Park number 3, when they found the esophagus vocal tube of the Velociraptor and the main character started playing it to confuse the raptors, I thought that was kind of cool. That moment stuck with me. One thing I really thought was cool about the Velociraptor, and this is just one piece I'll point out, is they were 6 feet tall. You know, a little taller than the average man.
So a little shorter than me, which I was a little surprised by.
I'm just imagining, like, if prehistoric man did exist during the dinosaurs, imagine, like, I'm about to get eaten. Fist fight, I'm not getting eaten. You want to go, Velociraptor? Uppercut. I can see it now.
Oh, for sure. And that's what was so surprising, and that's going back to the whole Jurassic Park thing. That's one thing Jurassic Park did, is they made them bigger than what they really were. Like, they were not as tall and ferocious as they were in Jurassic Park. Not saying they were anything to be messed with, because they had a second toe shaped like a freaking sickle that would tear you up. And so there's various theories. So some people think it was used to disembowel, so tear open the stomach, really make some nasty damage. But other scientists theorize that it was actually used to hold them down instead of actually to use, to stab.
Like good leverage.
Yeah, so it would almost like as a hook, so it hold their prey down, so as they're going through, they can bite and everything else. So it's kind of like almost like they can step and then hook and hold it down, so it kind of creates that form, which I thought was really interesting. And I thought it was a cool little tool that they have on their body. And these things, this speed scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I saw that on you.
So I'm going to let you go into
just
that.
to go through the information, well, you're the Velociraptor.
Oh, yeah. So
just to go through it real quick. So the species Velociraptor comes from the genus Dromaeosaurid. Did I pronounce that right? That's a hell of a word.
I know, and I wrote that with my hands.
Right, that is a hell of a word.
So we got the species Velociraptor, genus Dromaeosaurid. So
okay,
yeah,
that was close. I was close.
And
Dromaeosaurid from Central Eastern Asia, 72.1 to 89.8 million, folks, with an M, million years ago. For the people that don't believe the Earth is more than 10,000 years old, I just said million. Let that sink in. Height, like I said before, a little taller than the average man. Weight, 100 pounds on average, with a lifespan of 15 to 20 years. That's sad. They don't even grow up old enough to drink.
They don't get old enough to drink.
How sad.
Whew.
But the last piece, the emphasis Tyler made, they can run up to 25 miles an hour.
And part of that, I think, is to do with that weight. So their design was basically very aerodynamic. So they're only 100 pounds. So they may be as tall as a grown man, but they weigh as small as some of your smallest women, full-grown women right now, which is just, it's a weird design if you think about it, but it makes so much sense because they're so fast and so ferocious that they're basically designed to kill. Like
the modern day ostrich is the closest visualization you could get to a modern animal.
That's one thing.
They were like a crazy ostrich. They had feathers too.
So exactly.
I know Jurassic Park messed up the Velociraptor just as bad as the T-Rex. They wanted to make it look cool.
So they made it big.
So Chris Pratt could give commands to something that looked cool. You're killing me.
All like reptilian-esque, which it did look reptilian-esque, but what they also think is it had like almost like a chicken-esque wing where it had feathers kind of going out from the arm. So imagine claws here, and it had a fan of feathers going from its elbow to its wrist, as well as feathers covering its entire body. And part of what they think the reason they had those for was these feathers gave them an advantage compared to other reptilian dinosaurs at the time, because the feathers gave them the ability to stay warm easier. So they're able to retain more heat, so they didn't have to worry about that as much.
Being
as
a
other
cold-blooded,
dinosaurs.
being a cold-blooded animal, I imagine that's like an important thing.
Well, yeah, exactly.
No, that makes perfect sense.
And so, like, that's why a lot of people, when they compare the two, they almost compare them to chickens because of how they're designed. Like, the feet are very similar. Like, how the head is kind of similar. They're very fast. They're very aggressive, and they're also cannibalistic as well. So they would kill it.
Chickens are cannibals?
I thought so. This is a YouTube video. Let me preface that real quick. I heard that in a YouTube video today. That part of the reason is like chickens and things like that are cannibalistic and they're aggressive towards each other. Which
okay, this is new information. I like that. I like that. The Velociraptor.
I was gonna say, is there anything I missed?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. You nailed it. No, and I love the notes you have here. The Velociraptor, armed with a long, sickle-shaped second toe, these predators were effective and fast. On top of that, they ranked as one of the smartest dinosaurs, and they did. They hunted in packs, and they were able to coordinate kills with each other. It was a very, very interesting style because they came up with this on their own. It's very predatorial when a wolf pack of chicken velociraptors can surround their prey and take them out. And then you look at modern animals like lion prides.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the same concept. We are going to go at this thing in a coordinated effort until we get fed.
Oh yeah, you'd see several of them, and that's where I liked some of the Jurassic Park depictions of different dinosaurs. They kind of, like, in my opinion, took from other parts of the Velociraptor. So the mentality that they would jump onto their prey, I don't think was far off. I think that they would jump onto their prey, and as you're saying, in like almost like a pack kind of style, take down a larger dinosaur than they would be able to by themselves. And that was just so fascinating that they were as like the smartest dinosaur of their time. So they ranked. So if you're comparing it to like modern day animals, they're not quite as smart as a dog or a cat, but they're about as smart, if not a little bit smarter than a rabbit.
Hey, that's big.
And that for a
Rabbits
dinosaur
multiply.
is huge.
Dinosaurs did not have large brains, right?
Well, and that's, yes, exactly. Most of them weren't very smart, or if like their brains were designed. So the T-Rex, speaking of brains, the T-Rex brain was actually designed with a large olfactory kind of part where it's all about the smells. So they had a large part.
So they had an amazing sense of smell.
Yeah, so
which
so
makes
that's
them
where,
the predator, the hunting predator of predators.
Well, that's why I bring that up, because there was actually a little bit of a debate: was like a T-Rex a predator or more of a scavenger, or that might have been the Velociraptor. I'm kind of getting more.
No, it's okay. The Velociraptor, and we've nailed it. The biggest thing with the Velociraptor I'm thinking of now is, where would they be at with our Chemdawg bags? As I sit here and think about it, I think the Velociraptor would like Chemdawg, because anything that runs 25 mile an hour at the end of the day would definitely like to sit down to a couple nice Chemdawg dabs and let that second sickle-shaped toe, give that second sickle-shaped toe a rest. You know, you put your sickle-shaped toe up on your dirt mound, under the stars, and you get yourself some Chemdawg dabs. I don't think they'd be as big of a fan of the flavor, because again, they are meat eaters. Yeah. But I do think anything that runs 25 mile an hour would definitely love Chemdawg. And if you're a runner, I think you'd like Chemdawg as well. Anybody who has high movement, anybody who has real physically active professions, I would totally recommend any Chemdawg strain for its natural therapeutic pain benefits. I know we talked about this earlier. All cannabis and all concentrates contribute to overall pain relief, but I find the actual pain relieving effects go a little bit farther in the Chemdawg, and I really think that has to do with the terpene profile. There's a lot of really amazing science on osamine, the main terpene in Chemdawg that gives it that strawberry flavor. We're not going to dive too deep into it today, but I'd highly recommend checking it out or heading on over to Got Terps or Got Terpenes.
Oh yeah, so Got Terpenes. Real quick shout out to Got Terpenes. Amazing shirt and cannabis education brand run by a mother and son team. They come out with shirts just like this: fur babies plus cannabis equals quality time, as well as for cannabis plus friends and other various shirts like that, as well as what you're saying about the terpenes.
And education. And please reach out to them,
Exactly.
DM any of your questions about osamine or any of the terpene profiles that we talk about. You can talk to us, but I get a lot of my information from them, and it's a lot of great information because it's real. That's the biggest thing here, is making sure that real information gets out into the world. And to finish on Velociraptor, I think it's like a 50-50. It could like it. If the flavor was a little bit different, maybe not. But I'm definitely thinking if the Velociraptor was forced to go with nothing, the T-Rex would go with nothing and eat his friends, and the Velociraptor would sit down for a nice, fine bag of Chemdawg.
That's fair.
So Tyler, I'm going to fill up our next bag of Chemdawg here, but would you like to lead on our next dinosaur, the Brachiosaurus?
I would be happy to. So the next dinosaur of our series today is going to be the species Brachiosaurus, as well, and that comes from the genus Sauropod. They lived in North America along with T-Rex, but not at the same time. The Brachiosaurus lived 145 to 161.2 million years ago, so even longer than our last two, even farther back than our last two, which to me, like going back to what Paul said, you only think the Earth is a few thousand years old. Let's talk about dinosaurs some more, because obviously that's not the case in this. The height of this Brachiosaurus was 85 to 98 feet tall, so about as tall as a 4-story building, and as long as 2 school buses. So we're talking about a building 4 stories tall and as long as 2 school buses. That is insane when it comes to size. And at the same time, when we're talking about size, the weight of the Brachiosaurus, whew, he was a big boy.
And they do mention Leviathan in the Bible, gigantic beings. Could it possibly be that your timeline is just a little bit off in what you perceive as what 2,000 years is? It could be 2 billion years. Nobody knows, because it's just a perception of what time is, and we invented time. So it's our own perception of what we invented.
That is very fair. Time is such a very interesting, agreed upon concept.
Yeah.
Going back to sorry.
Yeah. It makes you think like what.
That's entire conversation in itself. I feel like we could go off into. That's why I'm like, all right, I gotta go. Stay back.
Yeah. We're gonna stay on the lane, but please subscribe and follow, because we will do another episode on what we just talked about. I assure you.
So the weight of the Brachiosaurus was 28 tons. So if we're talking in comparison to something nowadays, you've seen the biggest fire truck that you can think of. That's about the size of a Brachiosaurus. The largest fire truck. Those things are no joke. 28 tons. So we're talking 56,000 pounds. That's a big boy.
That's a big boy.
And the other crazy part about the Brachiosaurus that I was really shocked by, so we're talking about lifespan today, 100 years. So almost how I compare it is like a Brachiosaurus was like the turtle of the dinosaurs.
100 years is the
100
average life?
years.
Wow, so they aged
And
like
they only
us.
walked 5 miles an hour.
You're kidding me.
So it's like, honestly, it's
That's
like...
us. That's kind of like us.
So are they the dinosaurs?
They lived in North
the
America?
turtles are the
This is us! This is... What?
They're the Americans of the dinosaurs.
This is the Americans of the dinosaur right here. Folks, Americans are just brachiosauruses, okay? They are 28 tons. They only walk 5 miles an hour.
I hate to say it though, the Brachiosaurus was a vegetarian, so they probably ate a little better than us.
Oh my gosh, and they still were gigantic.
I know!
How the hell does that work?
It's all the treetops, man.
Oh, man,
The
see?
treetops.
See, and you know what? You got to think they grew up in North America. Hemp grew here normally. There are land-raised marijuana strains that have worked their way across the country. Who's to say that millions of years ago, we're talking over basically 150 million years ago, what do you think the Brachiosaurus is? The herbivores, okay? Herbivores. What kind of cannabinoids do you think we're running through their systems? And that brings
That's a
us
very good point. What kind of terpenes were running through their systems?
Literally. I mean, they ate green, so whatever precursor of plant that eventually evolved into what we are smoking today, they had to have eaten, right?
And they didn't have us fucking with the ozone or anything, so they had terpenes going through the air and shit too on top of it.
Yeah.
Like.
So the joke is, I love that you mentioned that. The joke is, during this time period, there was just as much CO2 in the air as there is today. So.
Didn't know that.
Exactly. I didn't know that either. These animals, potentially, and again, this is a theory. I don't want anybody take saying is 1,000,000% right, because all science and data is interpretable in their own way. But in this particular instance, animals, like the dinosaurs, ate themselves into a scenario where the climate dramatically shifted to an ice age, and then an asteroid hit Earth at the same time. It was just a whole bunch of horribleness at once is the theory of why the dinosaurs were completely wiped out.
That makes a lot of sense, because to maintain a body of 56,000 pounds eating nothing but vegetation, like trees, as we all know, trees do not grow very fast. So unless they were able to find something like hemp, which is sustainable, and eat that on a regular basis.
Hemp would probably be too low to the ground for a 4-story building.
Yeah, hemp was probably too low to the ground. So yeah, that would make honestly a lot of sense with these dinosaurs being as large as they are, being around the way they are. They could have eaten themselves into oblivion unintentionally, because all that CO2 would have just kept collecting and collecting and collecting, because there was nothing to suck it up, because they're eating it all.
Exactly. No, exactly. And again, it's a theory. There are a lot of different theories as to why the dinosaurs dramatically just disappeared. But the biggest one that I agree with is it wasn't one or two things. It was a lot of things that happened all at the same time. And that makes me think of human civilization. It's one thing, and this is another thing that added into that theory. It's one thing if everything in the world is perfectly fine and an asteroid hits. Devastation. We respond to the devastation. That could be potential another episode. Dabs and devastation. Subscribe. As we're sitting here, Dabs and devastation could be an episode. But we respond to the devastation. You fix the problem. You recover and move on. Because it was one thing. Now imagine, and I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, I'm just saying what if? What if climate change does abruptly occur, dramatically, and we have to answer to that as a species? We have to answer to that problem immediately. Day after tomorrow, scenario occurs, and we have to respond to that quickly and efficiently. And then an asteroid hits within that same, could be a 50-year period, could be a 100-year period, could be a 1,000-year period. It could take 500 to 1,000 years for our civilization to completely adapt to another ice age. It's very possible. So as we're adapting and we're trying to, overcome this new problem, we get bammed with an asteroid. Now imagine how effective the response would be to disaster efforts, to help people in the affected areas when you're already, the entirety of human civilization is still recovering from the last incident. Oh, a plague comes through. Oh, we ran out of food. One problem is easy to solve. 3 or 4 problems could be a nightmare quickly. And that's the idea behind the theory, is that they literally hit us it could have been a 1,000,000-year period.
Yeah.
But when you have no means to fix your problem, and then something happens and they don't know how to farm.
Well, yeah, all they can literally do at the time was eat and poop. Like, that's the only way that stuff, regrew.
They were 100-year-old infants.
Exactly.
My job is to find food and not die. So that, we went off on a little tangent there, but the Brachiosaurus, I personally believe, would love Chemdawg. I think the Chemdawg strain for the Brachiosaurus is exactly what the Brachiosaurus would want at the end of every day walking 5 miles an hour. That's a lot. 28 tons of fat. Think about your joint pain. If your ankle joint had to laying 28 tons on it every step. Every single step. And even if that was only a quarter of 28, it was only 3.5 tons. Okay, 3.5 tons is still, what, 10,000 pounds, roughly?
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So you think to yourself, yeah, their bodies probably had a lot of joint pain. You know, they might have wanted some of the anti-inflammatory pain relieving effects of the Chemdawg. And because they're herbivores, the osamine, I think they would have absolutely loved from a flavor standpoint. What do you think, Tyler?
I agree. And the nice thing about the Brachiosaurus, so yeah, they have the long necks, but that does make it very, very convenient for them to be able to hit one of the hardest bongs for a human to hit. A 6-footer, 8-footer, 10-footer, like the tall bongs
4
that
stories.
you have to have basically.
Imagine,
another friend like light.
Imagine
they
the
can
lung,
basically just have
a 4-story long lung, and then
Perfect.
clearing it.
Oh yeah.
And they got the body size to clear it too. Imagine the lungs on a 4-story building-sized animal. You could stand inside the lungs of that animal. That would be a room. That would be like a bathroom.
Imagine the amount
Peanuts.
of concentrate or flour it would take to fill a bowl that they would be able to like actually fill the piece.
For a
and clear.
Brachiosaurus to get a
Oh,
rip.
we're talking pounds.
Wow.
and
Okay.
pounds.
If there are any real hardcore dinosaur experts watching this, if there's any theories on the volumetric area, okay, the cubic
Oh yeah.
feet of gas that would fit inside of the lungs of a Brachiosaurus, please DM us, reach out, because I would love to do that calculation. Because I know how much fills this bag here, and this bag is X, and the Brachiosaurus is Y, and it's just a question of math and scale. So if anybody can reach out, that would be awesome.
Because we would love to be able to figure out how big of a bag would it take to take down a Brachiosaurus.
Because I want to bring a bag on the show that is the size of a Brachiosaurus's lung, and me and Tyler are going to smoke that baby down. So somebody please help us out, because the Brachiosaurus dab lung episode is going to happen. This is how we teach the people how big the Brachiosaurus dab lung is. I love it now. The Dabs and Show episode 300, Dabs and Dab Lungs of Brachiosaurs.
I'm down. But there's not a time where I'm not. Let me make sure we wrap up the Brachiosaurus before I go on to the important stuff when it comes to accounting. Because today we're going to be talking about the accounting and record keeping best practices brought to us recently by the accountants that were brought together by the MRA to do the annual financial statement work groups. So we're going to talk about those accounting and best practices. Let me wrap up this Brachiosaurus real quick. So one thing about the Brachiosaurus is they had teeth that I didn't honestly expect this when they came to their teeth. So I expected large, flat, like almost grinder kind of teeth where they could really grind down this herbaceous, like the treetops and everything else. They were blunt and like pencil shaped. It was like
pointy?
Not even like pointy, but like imagine 2 pencils like right next to each other and maybe about that long. Like it was, they were just not very big.
Okay, so that right there, think evolution. They didn't want to chew it. They wanted to grab it, rip it, and swallow it. That's why they had such a long neck.
Because like the chewing would definitely require those bigger flat teeth.
Yeah, they literally
like no molars basically.
Think of the units they use to grind up refuse.
Okay.
You know, they grab and pull. You know, that's the idea. Is it was probably like a grab and pull, and whatever ripped off, it didn't matter, because I'm going to keep ripping and grabbing and ripping and grabbing, and I got this giant mouth, and I can rip and grab and swallow.
Oh,
I imagine their mouth tissue was hard as steel.
Well, do you think part of it was like, so speaking of the grabbing and pulling, was like almost like if you think about like clearing a stalk, like if you're trying to clear the leaves or whatever, so that's what you're referring to? Okay, I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah. Grab and pull, and it would pull the vegetation. And again, now this is a guess. It would leave the branch behind.
Gotcha.
Again,
that makes more sense than like
pure guess, because there's probably scenarios where it didn't leave the branch behind.
Oh, for sure. Like they would eat literal treetops sometimes, intentionally, I think. So let me make sure there's nothing else.
So the Brachiosaurus, for sure, 100% would love Chemdawg. The beautiful strawberry and high note fruity aromatic notes would be a lover of the Brachiosaurus. And the overall therapeutic, relaxing pain benefits and euphoria that comes from consuming the Chemdawg strain, I think the Brachiosaurus would love it. Tyler, what do you think?
I agree. I completely agree. I think the Brachiosaurus would love it. I think the Brachiosaurus would like it in every way, shape, and form. One more thing I wanted to mention about the Brachiosaurus that I thought was interesting is they're known as gigantotherms.
Oh, this was the coolest thing ever.
There are animals even now that their body mass is so large that it basically keeps them hot all the time, which sometimes I wonder if I'm a gigantotherm, because my fiance can attest. I am warm 24/7.
Well, I can definitely attest to that. Listen, I have gone through the same thing you're talking about. I'm like, wow, as a fatty, I don't find myself to be cold, ever.
Yeah, like the bigger your body mass is.
And that's okay. You know what? When the world ends, I will be perfectly fine.
So their body mass is so large that they're able to keep themselves warm all the time, which is really interesting because other smaller animals don't have that same capability. So for a large reptile kind of mammal or reptile kind of dinosaur, it's really important that they were able to keep themselves warm, and I think that helped them survive as long as they are, because 100 years is not a short amount of time for any of the dinosaurs that I was looking at. So any of the dinosaurs I was looking at. So let's move on to the accounting and record keeping best practices. So these record keeping and accounting best practices, I want to make sure that everyone understands that these are both for cannabis and non-cannabis alike. Because reading through them, I'm like, okay, yeah, these definitely should apply to cannabis businesses. Some of these are exclusively for cannabis businesses, but a lot of these are really great practices and that I can attest that good clients, my clients, we make sure that they're doing this, because as long as you have good record keeping and good accounting, you're a lot of the times more than solid when it comes to audits from the IRS or the MRA or the states or whatever you're having to go through when it comes to your accounting. So what I want to bring up is one of their number one, which I completely agree with, and is to consult a CPA about the accounting system to make sure that you're documenting everything properly. So make sure you're talking to your CPA to make sure you're capturing your accounts and your expenses properly. And what I mean by that is make sure that you're actually getting the expenses that are for the business and actually make sense when it comes to the tax code. Because when it comes to the tax code, sometimes there are expenses that for books you can have, but for your tax purposes, you're not allowed to have. Meals and entertainment has been a controversial one because of how it's kind of flip-flopped back and forth. At one point it was 50%. With COVID it was 100% you were allowed. So that's just one of the examples of, you want to make sure that you're consulting a CPA to make sure you're capturing both your revenues and expenses properly. What that can also mean is, what kind of accounting method are you doing? For cannabis businesses, you're going to be required to do accrual accounting because you have to be able to maintain inventory. But for other businesses, small businesses and others can do cash basis accounting, and that means whatever cash you're paying out, you recognize those expenses. Whatever cash you're taking in, you recognize that revenue. And that's a very basic understanding of it. But my point is, make sure that you're going to a CPA that is knowledgeable in all these areas that can help guide you in the best practices for your accounting. With that being said, what you also want to do is make sure that you have good accounting software. Whether that be QuickBooks, whether that be Xero, make sure that you're not doing it on Excel spreadsheets, because all too many times I have clients come and so here's my accounting stuff. They printed out some PDFs of some Excel spreadsheets that they put out, or they just send me Excel files. And then I'm just kind of looking. Well, did you make sure that all this ties back to your bank accounts? Well, no, I didn't know that. Well, that makes sense. Okay, no worries. Let's make sure that those all tie out and everything. So this can kind of make my job or another CPA's job a little bit more difficult when getting you onboarded and getting you on track. So if you have an accounting software in place, sometimes it can make it easier and make it a little more streamlined for when onboarding and getting you on the right track as a business owner, both cannabis and non. Another thing you want to make sure that you're doing is keeping detailed records to make sure that you have, and what I mean by that is you want to make sure that you're creating a permanent audit trail. This is something that I harp to all my clients and as a firm, we harp to all our clients that make sure you have a permanent audit trail, because when the IRS comes, you can just lay it all out for them. Oh yeah, where'd this expense come from? No problem, here's the invoice attached to that. Or where's this revenue from? Oh yeah, no problem, here's the invoice that we sent out attached to that. Make sure you have all your records in place, have your operating agreements, have all your records both physically and electronically. Electronically, what you want to do is you want to have a cloud-based system, whether it be Dropbox or any other sort of cloud-based system, to have all your stuff in 2 different places as well as backed up. So when it comes to your electronic copies, make sure you also have it backed up on a physical hard drive somewhere else, because God forbid someone hacks your cloud. God forbid something happens to your computers and something disastrous, like your entire system catches on fire. Like, you just never know with these facilities what can happen. I mean, say you have a processing in your facility and it blows up, and there goes all your accounting records. You want to make sure that you have a physical copy on a separate hard drive in another place as well. And these are all best practices to make sure that you are keeping your records solid and in place for when you have to get your accounting in place or when the IRS comes knocking.
Awesome, awesome. So moving on to the next dinosaur here, we have the Triceratops. Triceratops, genus. Oh, you're gonna fucking make me do this.
Oh, I'll do this one. It's all good. Some of these, I will not deny. I had to kind of take it.
Man,
all right.
I tried sounding it out, okay?
And it didn't help that I had a little bit of a time.
I'm gonna try.
Okay. There's an S right there, just so you know.
Okay, that's an S. Okay.
Yeah.
Cosmosaurine ceratopsid.
Exactly.
Bam, baby! I can read.
Thank the Lord. He may be stoned, but he is not stupid.
Exactly. Stoned, not stupid. TM. Cosmosaurine ceratopsid. Oh, look, another American.
Exactly. It's a lot of North Americans. That's probably what we know about them.
North America. 68 to 83.5 million years ago.
Okay, so still one of the youngsters of the group. Not
Yeah.
Still one of the youngsters. So he and the Tyrannosaurus Rex were around at the same time.
9.5 to 8 feet tall, a little shorter than the U-Haul, and the T-Rex is in the 12 to 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they ate these things.
There's something I didn't write on there that I want to mention. So the Triceratops, if you've ever seen how a Triceratops head is designed, is they have a bone frill that goes over the base of their neck. Bone frill.
Bone frill.
It is a bone frill.
It is a bone frill, folks. That is a new word for me. I've heard frill before, but never in that type of context.
It's basically these flat parts of bone.
But did they have the things too? Was it like
they had the 3, but I wanted to bring this up because I put the 3 on there, but I didn't bring up the bone frill. The bone frill was important because exactly what you're saying. The Tyrannosaurus Rex was taller, so the Tyrannosaurus Rex would come down, try to bite its neck.
Hit him with the frill.
The frill actually was good for protecting its neck. So protect
your neck. I bet it was.
Triceratops took it literally.
Yeah.
Protect your neck.
Exactly. And you want to talk about like a species evolving into a better defensive animal because it knows it can't win. Mm-hmm. It just needs to outlast it.
Yeah.
Like that's by evolving.
That's exactly what
it's possible. I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not poking. Anything is possible. There are aliens. Who knows? Anything is possible.
You never know. We're open to anything. Because we have opinions.
I love information. Send me new information. I love reading. If you think I'm crazy, I will gladly read some information about why dinosaurs didn't exist. I'm in. Send it.
Please try to convince us otherwise, because we're more than open to listen to that stuff and go through it. Because maybe you're right. Maybe we're missing something, and you're able to change our opinion.
Yeah.
You're able to get us to see something that we missed, and we would appreciate you for it.
I just imagine a scenario where I'm an organism, and when presented with different scenarios as an organism with an unlimited amount of time, to exist and perpetuate, and there's no external factor that could possibly modulate its path of existence. When presented with a problem, and you have an unlimited amount of time, cells regenerate, DNA gets passed on, subconscious DNA.
Okay.
The Triceratops grows a bone frill because its grandpa for 50,000 generations has been getting mashed by the T-Rex. The T-Rex snout probably grew longer as the Triceratops bone frill grew longer, which allowed them to evolve into apex predator, because the greatest meal, the ribeye, the fillet, the agua meal for Tyrannosaurus Rex is a 26,000 pound Triceratops. Mm-hmm. That's more than its body weight. Like if you put the biggest T-Rex, Tyler, tell us real quick, what is the specs again for the T-Rex when compared to the Triceratops?
So the Triceratops compared to the T-Rex. So the T-Rex weighed about half to a little less than half of what the Triceratops did. So the T-Rex was anywhere between 9,900 and 18,000 pounds, where the Triceratops started at 13,000 pounds and went up to 26. So exactly what Paul's saying. That's a meal it had to work hard for, but it was worth it because it got to eat.
It got to eat. It got to eat. That was like, imagine that much meat. Think of yourself, right? You don't eat your body weight in food every day. No. You know? You don't even eat a tenth of your body weight in food. Well, a 100-pound person, 1% would be 1 pound of food.
That's fair.
You know, so no, I don't see a 100-pound human consuming more than a pound.
Oh yeah, no,
maybe
definitely not a small human being.
Yeah, like me. Yeah, if I eat a big meal, I might consume a pound of food, but I don't eat a big meal. I eat one meal, so it's like my one meal might maybe the one
But like in the scope of it too, like
it's not 10%,
like,
which that would last a dinosaur a very long time.
Like the weight, like in the scope of like human eating, the weight matters, but it is also what you're eating too. Yeah. Like because you could also eat like a few pounds of cucumbers, and caloric intake wise, you basically ate almost nothing.
Well, and like in that specific regard, because you're dead on, in that regard, you're just eating water.
Yeah.
You're really just drinking water and cucumber. Cucumber. Yeah, what is it? A cucumber is like 60% water. I think.
Something like that. It's a lot of
I think
water.
it's well over
but it's really good for hydration though too.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
You're gonna eat them.
So with the Triceratops, that matchup with the T-Rex, this is just a 2-second battle royale matchup.
Oh yeah.
Evolution dictates bone frill action in the Triceratops, and a long snout, short arm in the T-Rex. So I get it. I totally understand how that could have occurred.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it really would just come down to who's willing to take it to the end. Now, did the Triceratops have the horns?
Yeah, so the Triceratops, that's why they call it the Triceratops. So it has 2 horns on the top of its head, and it had one right at the end of its nose.
Unicorn, man. That could
exactly.
be. That could be what you know how like the stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
That could have been with the unicorn.
Well, one theory people have when it comes to relating it to like modern animals, which I think it honestly could be more related to the unicorn than what people a lot of the times associated with is rhinoceroses and stuff like that. So people like think because the horn, they must be related. Well, looking at it today, it is for a fact they are not related in any way, shape, or form. So they're probably more related to the unicorn than they are to the rhinoceros.
Do we have any? Do we know what they're related to? We're gonna have to in a future episode. We're gonna talk about the Triceratops T-Rex matchup because that would just be a hell of a fight.
Oh yeah, the thing about the Triceratops versus the T-Rex, from what I read and what I researched, a lot of the times the Triceratops would lose. So I think what you're saying is completely accurate. If the Triceratops is willing to fight it out and basically wear down and stab the crap out of the T-Rex until it gives up, then it's going to survive. But otherwise, most of the time the T-Rex did end up winning. It just took a lot more effort to take down a Triceratops than it did any other meal it was eating, because of how much more equipped for defense the Triceratops was, and better for a fight. Like the Triceratops too, like with the horns, they would also take those horns and fight each other. So again, going back to
Dominance.
Yeah,
think of elephants, think of deer, think of any antlered animal. That's why they have antlers.
Oh, exactly.
You ever think of that? You ever think in your mind why an animal would have that, and then you look at like their mating rituals and how they establish dominance?
Oh yeah,
that's why it's their evolution. Like they bumped heads. Well, keep doing that over the span of 10,000 years, and eventually bones start to occur. So your brain and skull, the cells, your DNA, over think of unlimited time.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of evolution that I can in my own logic believe in.
Yeah.
If there's an unlimited time frame, anything's possible. Stimuli from here and here and here, different variables that are completely uncontrollable, but something as simple as a deer bumping heads, I imagine their own internal subconscious systems thought, why don't we grow something to hit against so we don't do it with our heads?
I could see that.
So, you know.
My question is, when it comes to the scientists, actually, like you kind of like sparked something in my mind. That's why I drifted off there for a sec. Like, are scientists making assumptions based on modern day animals to where they're associating these behaviors based on like the the bone like damage and stuff like that, so they can see that it was they were.
What else would they compare to?
But yeah, no, that's what I'm just like.
That's what most science is just good comparative analysis to what we know.
So like at the same, I guess my point on that theory is at the same time we could be so wrong.
And that's the other half of it.
We could have no idea, and we could just be completely off base and be like, oh, they just did it for fun. Like,
and that's to the people who think that none of this is real. They could be very well right. We could have guessed it completely wrong. When you were a little kid, okay, Mr. I don't believe, and they gave you the stone in kindergarten, okay, that had the little fish fossil in it, okay, and they said, this is like 25 million years old. Did you take that home and someone told you that's not real? I want to know what caused this thought in your brain, because I look at that and I go, wow. My immediate question is, Mr. Teacher, how many years does it take for the Earth to make a stone like this with no fossil in it?
Okay.
Because whether or not that indentation's in it, I'm more curious to know where the rock came from.
Yeah.
Because that's how I think. You're right. I completely agree with you. Whether or not the fossil that's in the rock bed and the stone is real, I don't really necessarily think about what people point to. I think of something even more in your face, simple. How old is the rock?
That makes sense.
Okay, there's a bone fragment.
I get what
Okay,
you're saying.
we can talk about that. But before we talk about that, I want to talk about how old the rock is.
Okay.
Because if you can dictate how old the rock is, I imagine you'll have a general idea of how old the bone fossil is. They're in the same thing.
Do you know how they do that, by the way? Like how they dictate how old the rock is and stuff?
So
that's one question I would have.
And this is a debate that I've had with people in this section, and
okay.
There are people say that carbon dating has been invalidated.
Okay.
But there is something called radiometric dating. And if I pronounced it wrong or I said it wrong, somebody please tell me. But radiometric dating is the established decay of radioactive atoms and the decay of common elements and what common elements decay into. Simply what rusting metal decays into. You have standard metal, and as it rusts, it changes into something else. It's the same thing, but one is less stable than the other, and it is a calculated rate of decay. And there are universal calculated rates of decay that can be observed in nature that establish these time frames.
Okay.
And that's what gives the basis, an established universal rate of decay of an element that, okay, if it was from this time period and it's this, and we know that that element is this, and it has an established rate of decay of this, a half-life of this, so it turns into this, like with uranium.
Yeah.
You know, the half-life of uranium and how it decays into uranium-235, and it decays into the next uranium atom. It's still uranium, but it's a different atomic structure of uranium.
Okay.
And again, if I'm explaining it wrong, this is how I understand it. But the basic idea is there are observed universal rates of decay.
Okay.
And those time frames are what give a guy 145 to 161 million years.
Yeah.
Their math is that's their standard of deviance. That's not that could be the time frame they lived. That could also be their standard of deviance. The math says that, well, we're within 20, 30 million years, give or take.
Well, and that's exactly why I took the numbers that I did, because the numbers that I did, I want to say it was either Smithsonian or Britannica, but one of the two. Like, these were the numbers they came up with, because there was some on Wikipedia.
Did they say where their numbers came from?
I honestly didn't go that deep into it.
Yes, we'll do that. No, we're going to do that in the Dabs and I got to think of the D word we can use for the Dabs and Deniers episode. Yes! Oh,
I like that. Okay.
man, we're coming up with zingers today. For all of you that don't believe dinosaurs existed, make sure to tune in to the Dabs and Deniers episode that we do. We'll announce it later on the social media platforms. It will happen, but make sure to tune in to Dabs and Deniers when that episode airs.
And if you want to make sure you're tuned in, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Sizzlet. If you want to go find me on the Terp CPA, I also post stuff on there. You can find us at Joint Accounting PLLC. You can find him at The Profit.
Profit Life 77 on the Instagram.
I always kind of forget that.
That's okay, yeah.
Profit.
PROPHETLIFE 77 on the Instagram.
So any sort of suggestions, questions, or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us and find us and stay informed and stay tuned, because we are going to be doing this 24/7 nonstop for the next, we don't even know.
Forever. Stoned, not stupid. Moving on to finish with the Triceratops.
Oh, I
The
forgot we were still on the Triceratops.
So, just to finish with this, back to the important business. Just to finish with the Triceratops.
Yeah.
I think the Triceratops would love the Chemdawg strain. Personally, like we've been describing it today, euphoric pain relief, nice calming relaxation, beautiful high note fruity flavors. The osamine strawberry. Make sure to check out Got Terpenes for information on osamine, but the osamine strawberry is fantastic. And pairing all that together, the Triceratops, and they were a ground level animal.
I was just about to say they could have been eating
They would have
cannabis.
definitely been eating cannabis. I mean, at 9 to 9.5 feet, natural hemp plants grow like a weed.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I can definitely see a Triceratops finding, and the joke is he'd eat the plant, and then he'd poop it out with the seeds, and all that amazing fertilizer essentially would probably grow super crops.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You talk about land race and how stuff races across the land.
And
Animals, baby, that's how land race occurs. Animals.
And you wonder with, like, animals like this, like, they may have not been smart enough to realize what they were doing exactly, but there are animals even now, like dolphins, will pass pufferfish back and forth to get high. So we know animals do get high.
It is a thing.
It's a wonder to me, like, did the Triceratops accidentally get high a few times and not even realize it? It ate the female cannabis plants, and it got a little buzzed and didn't even realize it was buzzed, but it felt real damn good.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, Triceratops herd. Today we're going to herd ourselves down to the herb. It's going to be a herb. There was a guy in the group named Herb. It was a really confusing time. Herb, you got to keep up with the herd. We're going to get the herb.
And they did travel in herds based on the fossil evidence that they found. They did find them in large packs, large herds, where they did travel like that, and that's even more reinforcement. Herd in the herb, man. Find that herb.
To the deniers. They found a lot of rocks that looked incredibly similar in the same exact area. And as they were uncovering them, there was a remarkable amount of similarities between the rocks. It's not plaster in a bucket that they broke pieces of. And I'm sorry I keep going back to this, but it's like, I saw one of these videos and it was crazy.
Well, that's completely fair, and like, and I actually appreciate that kind of way of looking at it because, yeah, like the theory that the bones are faked or something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
They found them in the ground. Like whatever they found, whether you want to call it a bone or not, is real. It was there.
Yeah, it was there. That I'm not going to argue. Whether or not people put it there, whatever, I'm not going to go down that path. The bones could have been fake. That's not even the argument we're making here, or like you're making here. It's the rock itself. The rock itself, which, to me, if you're going to fake the rock...
How?
Well, exactly. A, how, and B...
When you go to a beach and you pick up a rock on a beach, are every single one of those faked? When you find a Petoskey stone in Michigan, that's supposed to be fossilized coral.
Like,
that's
the
millions of
amount
years
of
old.
like effort it would take, in my opinion, to fake like a site like that. That's where my head goes. Like faking like a few dinosaurs. Okay, fine.
Okay, you found your info at the Smithsonian, right?
Yeah,
they have a full T-Rex there, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I saw several full like T-Rex skeletons.
Well, no, I'm from and. Again, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, they have a full T-Rex skeleton at the Smithsonian. And they're not the only place in the world that has one.
Yeah.
So, the greatest sculptor in the history of sculptors coalesced every single square inch of fake bone to create this off... I can't see it. It's
that's
just,
what I mean. Like, it would.
Why would you go through that? Yeah. Like, why would you go through that? I don't. When the kid finds a dinosaur bone in his backyard.
I'm trying to remember what the theory was behind it. Like, I thought it had something to do with fossil fuels or some stuff like that.
No. People say that fossil fuels, all the dinosaurs should be oil, and I was like, so. And again, the idea, just like the tar pits in California.
Yeah, which I've seen,
and
it smells like crap.
Oh, yeah. It takes perfect conditions. Again, we talk about variables and evolution to things. Yeah. It takes a perfect set of conditions for something to be fossilized in its entirety. Perfect set of conditions.
It's almost like if you...
It's not a simple feat, and that's why there aren't bones everywhere.
If you compare it to... So, if you want to compare it to something, how I kind of look at it is, it's the difference between freezing something normally versus flash freezing. Because flash freezing, you get almost like an instantaneous preservation of what's there, and the freeze is so deep and so instantaneous that it preserves everything. Like almost like you would have to almost like cryogenically preserve.
No, so that's like when they find frozen mammoths in Siberia as the snow starts to melt.
Yeah,
they find a full-sized, perfectly preserved woolly mammoth.
And it took like that kind of event where it was almost like a deep flash freeze to make that happen.
It died overnight in a snowstorm and got covered.
Well, yeah. Whereas other dinosaurs went through more of what you would compare it to like a slow freeze, where how I almost look at it is like meat that goes like it's freezer burned and shit like that. It doesn't look good. It gets kind of fucked up. It gets kind of screwed up. It gets like a little bit off and everything, and it just doesn't seem quite right. And so I think it's the slower freeze that made it to where the bones are just not in as good of a condition.
No, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So for sure, the Triceratops would absolutely love Chemdawg. Hands down, I think the Triceratops would love it. Moving on to the next dinosaur, the Mosasaurus. Genus Mosasaurus.
Ooh.
That was an easy one.
This one was in the most recent Jurassic Park, or one of the more recent Jurassic Parks.
Chris Pratt Jurassic Park?
Yeah, so one of the Chris Pratt
Jurassic newest Jurassic Parks. Chris Pratt Jurassic Park. It's very easy. There's old Jurassic Park, and then there's Chris Pratt Jurassic Park.
That's very fair. And I haven't really seen any of those.
I like Chris Pratt Jurassic Park, but I also, it's a different movie.
That's fair.
It's not, there's a little nostalgia, but it's a different movie.
That's fair. And I can definitely see that. Like, from what the bits and pieces I have seen, it's definitely a very different
it's very Guardians of the Galaxy.
Where like the Mosasaurus, so if you've seen the part in there where they have like a SeaWorld-esque attraction and the giant dinosaur comes up and takes whatever the meat is at the time hanging on the end, that is the Mosasaurus, and that is almost a good depiction of it to an extent.
Yeah, they didn't lie about that.
It may have been a little exaggerated in size.
I mean, dude, okay,
when it comes to scale, I don't know.
59. Okay, so they lived in the ocean. It was an ocean fish, and it was like it wasn't a fish. It was the fish. It was the ruler of the sea. 66 to 99.6 million years ago, and the length 33 feet starting and up to 59 feet.
So we're talking about probably a school bus, maybe a school bus and a quarter.
2/3 of a football field.
Like it's no joke. It
From the end zone to the 60-yard line. From the 50. The other side's 40-yard line. 60 yards. I mean that's or not 60. That's 60 yards. No, 60 feet is.
That was my favorite part about this. So
60 feet is 30 yards. Mine's like 30 yards.
Out of all the ones I looked up, this is the only one that I found that literally the lived part was ocean.
Yeah.
Didn't specify like which ocean, just ocean.
All of them.
And that's probably because it was definitely an apex predator in the sea. Like there was no messing around with it. So the only
How
thing
much did it weigh, Tyler?
Oh, good point. Thank you. Oh my goodness. 30,000 pounds. So we're talking 3 to 4 hippos put together.
Imagine them hungry hippos as one gigantic 3 to 4 times hungry hippo. Impressive. Impressive
joke. And I know people get all like excited when they hear about the megalodon and everything else. Though I've seen the megalodon and the Mosasaurus. The comparisons, the megalodon would win. Fine. I can live with that. But
wait, they say the megalodon would beat this?
They say the megalodon would beat
How big is the megalodon?
But it ain't as big. That's where I was going with this.
Okay, so we're going to do... Okay, so we're not going to talk about the megalodon and the Mosasaurus fight anymore because that's going to be Dabs and Deep Sea Dinosaurs. Okay?
I like that a lot.
Dabs and Deep Sea. Make sure to subscribe and follow because we're going to do the Dabs in the Deep Sea one day.
Mm-hmm.
This monster, the Mosasaurus, from the deep closely resembles a crocodile in the face with flippers to propel it through the ocean at speeds of about 30 miles an hour. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this thing can book it. And that's where I think it's got some definitely no joke power because it got the face of a crocodile, so it's going to be biting down. What was the bites?
Similar to that of a T-Rex.
So, yeah.
Essentially, the T-Rex of the sea. The C-Rex. Mosasaurus, the C-Rex, TM, profit. So yeah, speaking of the Mosasaurus and Chemdawg, I don't know. I don't think the Mosasaurus would like Chemdawg.
Okay.
Consuming Chemdawg in the sea, it would have to be like an ocean Chemdawg, maybe like a seaweed Chemdawg. Anything's possible.
I mean,
seaweed Chemdawg. I don't know. I think because
part of me wonders if it would to an extent because
it has to go on land to get it.
That's fair. I was going with the fruitiness.
Okay, though, it does say real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
You mentioned this. Closely resembles a crocodile. They go on land every now and then.
It could stick its head up and take
a 30,000-pound animal's got to be at least 5-6 feet off the ground, 10 feet.
I can see that.
So yeah, I can see it walking up on land and having like an afternoon salad before he makes his way back out to plunder the ocean.
Well, I was thinking along the lines of if you ever had like seafood and stuff with like a fruit with it or something like that. That's where my head went. It's like a poke bowl or something. Okay.
So
salty and sweet. So
I'm gonna put the Mosasaurus in the middle because it is a carnivore. It ate meat. It wasn't an herbivore. It was the king of the sea. So yeah, I would put it on the fence. I know the calming effects. It lives in the water. It already has the most calm life in the. It lives in the water. And something that gigantic,
and it's not getting messed with. Like
it could sleep underwater. It could do whatever it wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that big. It could like whales. Like they could fall asleep underwater.
Oh, that's a great comparison. Like the size wise and everything. Like whales, it's basically like a crocodile and a whale slapped together in a crazy angry way.
Enormous. All right, so that's the Mosasaurus, the C-Rex, TM profit. Would definitely, for sure...
we're going to go with the maybe.
Yeah, we're going to go with the maybe. 50-50 maybe. So moving on to the...
Dilophosaurus.
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 Okay.
Either way.
Dilophosaurus, Dilophosaurus,
I've heard it pronounced both. So
Google will tell us how if you're really curious. Genus Theropod, another American. North America between, wow, this is an old one.
Yeah, so this was definitely, I think it might be the oldest one of them all.
183, 182. Yeah.
And
so the oldest dinosaur we have here, almost a 250 million years old. Almost, I say. It starts at 182.7 million and moves to 201.3 million years ago. They say what the Earth is potentially in that couple billion year range, so
that would make sense.
They're still fairly young in the grand scheme of things.
They're still fairly young in the grand scheme of things, but the thing that makes me it makes connections in my mind at least. This is the oldest one of the ones that we're looking at. This is the one we're just recently figuring stuff out about.
So this is could be potentially like the beginning of dinosaurs.
Very well could be. And actually, I think that's where they were kind of going with it. So I was watching a little bit of a video earlier about these. And so for the longest time, so these are the ones, so if you've seen in Jurassic Parks, where they have a little bit of a crest on their head, but they have those giant flaps that come out, that's what we're referring to right
Wait a second, rewind. Is this the one that gooed the guy in Jurassic Park?
Yes.
The goo dinosaur?
So
this is the goo dinosaur. He got the shaving cream guy gooed. What was his, when they put the password around in the computer.
I was gonna say that sounds super familiar.
I can't remember his name, but that was okay. So the Dilophosaurus, the Dilophosaurus.
So I'm really glad you actually brought that up because Jurassic Park, that's where they got it wrong.
Oh, they got it wrong.
So that's why I brought up. We were just recently learning about this. So this video that I was looking at was about a year old, so not very old at all, and we're just now finding out. This was not a dinosaur that relied on tricks. This is not a dinosaur that relied on poison or any sort of trick.
It didn't spit black goo at people?
No, this was basically in my opinion, what would be kind of looked at as a precursor, a pre-Velociraptor, where it is the apex version of predators at the time. So
it was it was the pinnacle of the best you could be at 200 million years ago.
So when you brought up, was this the beginning of dinosaurs? That's what they were kind of theorizing, is this was one of the first apex predators to ever exist.
To come out and and you got to think, once you are the apex, anything's your dining table. Anything, you could eat anything, and unlimited growth, again, like we were talking about, over a million years. Or in this case, hundreds of millions of years. Just think of unlimited time. Think of humans and what we have accomplished in our warring couple thousand years of real hardcore existence. If you go back longer than that, look at what we've done now. Look at how far technology has come from 1980 until now. 41 years. How much has changed technologically.
Talk to your grandparents.
Imagine if humans are given 1 million years to innovate. What could potentially occur? It's an unlimited amount of time. That's the idea behind this animal being the apex of the time. It now has an unlimited amount of time to eat and procreate and eat and procreate, and that was it.
Well, yeah, until
something else came along,
or another dinosaur comes along. It is exactly what you're saying. It is it. So, if you've ever seen those dinosaurs that were, so they were kind of flat on top and had almost like diamond kind of triangle armor. It almost looked like an armadillo kind of esque. And it had
the Dilophosaurus.
I want to say it had a club kind of looking tail or something like that. But it was main thing I'm thinking about is it had this flat armor on top. That was dinner to this thing. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, because this apex predator would take down these gigantic dinosaurs, and they would do it. And that's why I think it's a precursor to a Velociraptor, is they would do it in a pack kind of style, to where they would take down these big dinosaurs together. And they were no they were no slouch by themselves at the same time. They didn't need it, but if they're gonna go for something bigger, they wanted some friends. Speed is where I feel like they're also related to the Velociraptor. There's a lot of similarities.
4 miles
That's what I'm saying.
an hour. Yeah.
There's so many
and
similarities.
And the Velociraptor's 25. It evolved I will say this, and this is like what I laugh. You had 200 million years, and the Velociraptor is. You had in 100, and this is evolution. In 100 million years of evolution, the Velociraptor only gained 1 mile per hour on its predecessor. That's how long it took to gain 1 mile per hour.
And you know what it probably was? The crests.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So
I wouldn't doubt it, because that thing had drag.
Well, that's
and
the other thing.
Velociraptors don't have drag.
They got that wrong with Jurassic Park, so they showed it with like kind of smaller crests. Well, the new theory is the biggest one that they have out there is actually like the crest is like this. Like it is gigantic, and it's also attached.
Like a wind sail almost.
Yeah, so it's like so if you've seen like a T-Rex, how like the top of its skull is attached to like the nasal cavity and stuff. This was like an exaggerated version of that. So it was like a giant like almost it looked like a flap almost. So it's this giant crest.
Imagine running with that, though, how you could turn and direct air.
Well, part of it was they're theorizing that it actually. So people were like, "Oh, it was just covered in skin or whatever, like a Velociraptor would." Well, their theory now is it was covered in keratin, like a beak, like a
like
bird's
they used
beak
it
or
to
something
drive
like
into
that.
it.
So they would use it to drive like into interspecies competition or just to take things down or whatever.
Well, and
so
like this one
was actually like
the
really hard.
Dilophosaurus is a carnivore, right? So yeah,
Yes, it is also a carnivore.
It's the apex of carnivores. Man,
it was a big one too.
880 pounds. Well, and I say big one. Imagine you're small prey at that point. You know, and again, I think what if there were prehistoric humans? What if there were human species around at this time? And like, it's really hard for our bones to last millennia because they're not gigantic. You know what I'm saying? We don't have the same deposits. So I could see human civilizations being wiped off the face of the earth and out of the fossil record because there aren't good conditions to preserve a human body that long. They have found, they keep randomly finding 100,000, 200,000 year old body parts and caves and in the dawn of civilization areas of the planet. It's like, again, is their time scale wrong? Are they wrong? Are they right? You know, I don't know. I'm not well versed enough in the subject, but the information's out there, and it could very well be possible. Anything is possible in this world. And if our perception of time is wrong, that doesn't mean that our curiosity to know what is right and wrong is wrong. I'm curious as hell. I want to know where we came from and what made us into this. That would be so cool to know.
Well, what you're saying makes me think like, so say their timeline is correct. So say the ones they're finding right now are correct. They're only finding one.
Yeah.
They're only finding two.
And
they're only
rare instances.
And so what you were saying before, it makes me think of have there been humans for a long time? But the reason we haven't found like a bunch until like from all different time periods, because until we found a bunch from I honestly don't remember exactly what time period we found majority of the skeletons of early human beings. But with that, I wonder if before they had basically just a few here, a few there because they couldn't sustain it. So that's where I was going with it. So like dinosaurs, they couldn't sustain huge groups of humans, but like one or two could make it and just barely.
Yeah,
and they could procreate a little bit, or
not
whatever.
even that. Just put themselves in a scenario where it's like, I'm a 100,000-year-old cave human, and okay, maybe I didn't live in a cave, but maybe I was caught in a really shitty fucking snowstorm, and now I'm in a cave, deep in a cave, and I get snowed in, and I die. But it's the perfect conditions for my body to be preserved.
That's fair.
You know, and the snow causes an avalanche, and the cave gets done in, and it takes 100,000 years for miners to open the cave up, and a scientist analyzes the gas that's in the cave and realizes that this is a find, and they send people in, and paleontologists and archaeologists. People, this is their life. In the Dabs and Deniers episode, hopefully I can get a denier and a archaeologist or a paleontologist to have a conversation with each other. Potentially, we'll try.
Well, it makes me also think about what you were saying before with the whole it really the conditions matter for preservation of the bones. So maybe part of it too is we haven't had that many perfect scenarios where the mix of everything has come together.
It has to be perfect
to get those bones to be able to last as long as they are, because it very well could be that they're just they were there at some point, but the course of time is just
they turn to dust.
Exactly.
Literally, turn to dust, avalanche, rock slide, the earth moved, earth shook, dug up. A dinosaur bone is like solid.
Oh yeah.
And that's the other part is, when you're a giant mass animal, you lay down, it's a pile of bones. It's not like anything's going to come over and move a giant tree trunk of a bone.
That's fair.
And that's, again, it's just immense amounts of similarities. They do comparative analysis of what's known and make distinctions accordingly. Sometimes data is interpreted wrong. That's why there's leeway in all this, and I won't say it's 100% right.
Oh, for sure.
But it does beg a lot of curiosity.
Oh,
and that's where I'm at. I'm not ever going to say this is exactly what it is, because what is known and what is unknown are sometimes the same thing, because knowns can be unknowns, just like unknowns can become knowns. And anything is possible. And at the rate that technology and discovery is moving forward, the next 100 years could see innovation that we wouldn't have seen in the previous 1,000. When you look at how computational growth and how everything compounds into bigger growth.
It is amazing.
Compounding growth in money, it's the same thing in technology.
A big shout out to this episode's sponsors, Illuminar Lighting, Joint Accounting PLLC, Huron Botanicals LLC, and Volcano Concentrates.
Because I've heard the older generations and the people who are basically at this point they're starting to die out, just blown away stories in their minds when they talk about the advancements in technology. I mean, I think about it, not even what is it now?
Dude, we grew up in the 90s. Did you guys have a corded phone in your house, didn't you?
Oh yeah, we had a corded phone for sure. I was going along the lines of we weren't even taking off from the ground until about 100 years ago.
Yeah, Wright brothers.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what blows me away. We went from someone could be alive right now who basically was born around the time that they just started getting people off the ground to now they can be flown around anywhere they want.
Yeah, anywhere.
Just in one piece of technology. And you're right, the phones in itself, the amount the phones have changed in our day, the corded phones. I remember when we got a cordless phone, that was exciting. Yeah,
and then you got multiple. Everybody had their own cordless phone in their own room, and it was the coolest thing ever. Now we all have cell phones. Every house, every single person, every single household has a cell phone. But it's easier. It is simpler.
Oh yeah.
It is and it isn't. And that's a whole other, Dabs and Big Brother will be another episode.
Well, it made me think of the whole the cordless phone and corded phones and everything made me think about internet. The fact that we're able to record and stream and upload and do the things we are right now, we weren't able to do that as kids. The dial-up connections, the attempts at dialing in to the connection. Kids nowadays don't understand that they have to deal with, oh man, the router's off or the server's down or something like that. But the whole okay, it takes 2 to 10 to way too long.
Kids nowadays don't have to pull out their Nintendo 64 cartridge and blow in it to make it work.
That's true.
Okay? They don't have to blow in the mouth of their flipping games to make their game work. They call Microsoft because the download didn't work.
Yeah.
They patch in support, and they didn't know the struggle. They didn't have to experience the struggle. Struggle's real, man.
That's so amazing.
You ever play Duck Hunt? Have to blow in the cartridge. I lick that cartridge, blow in it, wipe it out. The lick is what made it work.
To me, I feel that's got to be saving the companies so much money when it comes to they don't have to create as much physical product. So all they have to do is create this the download.
Think of it, not even physical product. Think of the logistical cost.
That's fair.
To get things from A to B, and how many bodies you have to pay to manage the logistics of A to B, and then production of products to move. It's everything's digital. If you can, like even storefronts, if you can operate a storefront and not have any thoughts of a physical storefront and do it all digitally, that's the way to go.
Oh, for sure.
Why go through a brick and mortar thing when you can just ship everything? If you don't like it, ship it back. That's how Amazon does it.
Well, from a cost perspective, like if you're going down the accounting route, like the fixed cost of having a brick and mortar store, so fixed cost is going to be a cost that you have to pay every single month, regardless of how much you sell or don't sell. So the rent you have to pay for those buildings is a fixed cost. You save so much money. All these businesses right now you can see with the transition to remote work, like they're saving so much money on rent alone by not having a physical either workplace or storefront, like you're talking about with these distributors and businesses. Like to not have a physical storefront, it is such an advantage. The only thing you need is really a place. Sometimes even it's not even always. To store your merchandise, and that's just sometimes. You don't always need that. Like with drop shipping and stuff, like sometimes you don't even need to have actual physical merchandise ready and waiting.
Yeah, no, you nailed it. I love how our conversation went from the Dilophosaurus to why operating a physical brick and mortar business. Nowadays, just do it digitally. Great insight there, but just to finish, I don't think the Dilophosaurus would like Chemdawg at all. Between the fruity flavor and the relaxing calming effect. As an apex predator, he would want to be like not calm ever.
No.
He would want to be like the apex like all the time.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I think that he evolved into the apex of apex predators. And yeah, the Dilophosaurus. So no, I don't think the Dilophosaurus would like Chemdawg. And working from, just before we just go back and just do a quick rundown of all the dinosaurs and their likes and dislikes again, did you have any further thoughts on the Dilophosaurus?
I'm going to read through real quick to make sure we didn't miss anything. I think I brought it up, but I want to make sure to say it again. Dilophosaurus, like some of our other dinosaurs, did participate potentially in cannibalism. And I think that is one of the most interesting things about these predators is... Part of what it seems is a common factor on some of these like more higher up predators is there was cannibalism amongst their species, and that makes me wonder, like, was that a necessary characteristic for them to survive? Was that a necessary?
I think definitely it was a meal. Like imagine if somebody's encroaching on your land. You're an animal, not a human. You're an animal. This is what you eat. You eat meat. Your job every day is to find meat to eat, and it's like. They knew what they wanted to eat, but anything that came into their realm that was even looked mildly like it could be an easy kill or a low-hanging fruit, they went at it. Guaranteed. Why wouldn't they?
That's fair.
So somebody encroaches on your plot where you keep your food and this your hunting grounds.
Yeah.
You know, upsetting the natural order of things because they know you got great hunting grounds.
Yeah.
And you win the fight.
Okay.
Great. Not only did I just defend my hunting grounds, I now just won myself a free chicken dinner.
Yeah, you get yourself dinner for the night. Okay.
And that's the winner chicken dinner. Like that's in that scenario, I can definitely see that happening. This is like a really rough scenario of it, but think of modern animals when you talk about cannibalism. Think of modern wolf packs leaving a wolf because it drops off from the pack. Like they don't eat it, so it's like you wonder where
I think cats are cannibals though, potentially. I know, and I can't. So let me be very clear on this. I can't say that for certain, but the fact that cats are willing to eat like their human owners and stuff after they pass away makes me.
I really think it depends on the human owner. So we're gonna do another episode in the future, and we'll call it Dabs and Deaths. Well, we'll talk about
Dabs and Decay.
Yeah, Dabs and Decay, Dabs and Death, and maybe we'll do that after the Dabs and Deniers episode. So you can get some great information on decay from the paleontologists. And see what's up. But as of now, just to move back to the top to cap this episode off, folks, the first dinosaur we talked about was the T-Rex, absolute apex predator of the kingdom, and it would not like Chemdawg. Chemdawg, with its amazing euphoric pain-relieving effects and its really, really terpy, high-note, fruity flavors. Again, look at Got Terpenes for more information on the most active terpene, osamine. Moving on to the next one, Velociraptor. Velociraptor would love Chemdawg. Would you say Velociraptor would love Chemdawg?
I think Velociraptor was kind of a maybe. I think it would like the effects of it. The flavor, I think, is the only thing it would not be a big fan of. So
That. It would like it for its effects, but not for its overall long-term taste.
So I think Velociraptor would definitely dab it, but I think if it got the option to dab something else with very similar effects of the euphoria and the pain relief, I think, and even the energy in itself, I think it would go along those routes. If it could get something a little more earthy, gassy, something a little more along the lines
Breathy.
of meat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Peanut butter breath, perhaps. Maybe on a future potential episode. Who knows? The next dinosaur, the Brachiosaurus, would definitely love Chemdawg for sure as a herbivore, 100%. And you never know, 150 million years ago, there could have been 4-story tall pot plants. You don't know.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And, certain temperate regions where the summers are long, that plant could have vegged, starting in March, for places that get early summers, that get simple winters. You never know.
I mean, we see, even now, there are some cannabis plants that get real big.
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible.
So
Moving on, the Triceratops would also love it. In a future episode, Dabs and Destruction, Dabs and Duels, we're going to talk about the Triceratops and the T-Rex matchup. The bone frill is definitely a new word. I got a bone frills. I remember bone frills, so that's a new word for sure. Bone frill, but yeah,
protect your neck.
protect your neck. Yeah, they would definitely love Chemdawg. The Mosasaurus, aka the C-Rex, TM the Prophet.
I think the Mosasaurus, definitely on the fence about it. I think it would like it. It would go well with the fruitiness would go well with the seafood that it eats at the same time. But I think the effort it would have to go to.
It's crocodile-like, so it could crawl on land potentially to get a nice little lunch salad and work its way back out to sea for a little afternoon shrimp fest.
That's fair.
Anything's possible. But to cap it off, the last dinosaur, the Dilophosaurus, and we all know this dinosaur from the original Jurassic Park, the guy who got the black goo spit in his cream face. What did he hide the information in? It was a shaving cream, Barbasol, I think it was what it was. The bottom spun out. I thought that was the joke is I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and now all the stash cans are like they're like shaving cream cans or water bottle, the craziest things.
All sorts of them.
The Dilophosaurus, I don't think would be a big fan of the Chemdawg. But I do think it would be a big fan of cannabis overall. Some gassy, meaty. Some gassy, meaty, like a peanut butter breath. I can imagine a Dilophosaurus eating a peanut butter sandwich in between kills.
And speaking of kills, I like Jurassic Park's creativity. I like its thought process.
It was a great movie.
That's
from a cinematic movie. It's not the Discovery Channel.
Poison spitting though.
It's not Nat Geo. I'll tell you that.
Poison spitting did not happen.
Poison spitting. He did not get black goo spit in his face.
But would he get his face bitten off? Oh yeah,
definitely from the apex predator. Okay, folks, thank you very much for joining us today on the Dabs and Show, episode 3, Dabs and Dinosaurs. Terp CPA, do you have anything else, my man?
Make sure you're counting for your expenses and your revenue properly, and reach out to a CPA to get some help, whether it be myself at Joint Accounting PLLC or another CPA, because regardless of if it's myself or another CPA, you want to make sure that you have someone who is knowledgeable and gets you the right accounting and is doing it properly, whether it's cannabis business or non-cannabis business alike. Make sure you stay safe out there. This has been the Terp CPA and Paul the Prophet.
Remember,
thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Dabs and Show. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more at the Dabs and Show.